Good day, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Have you ever thought about the history of your typewriters? What happened between the time when they were manufactured and sold to when they're now yours? You might have bought them from a thrift store, an antique store. You might have bought them from an online auction. Maybe a neighbor was selling it or throwing it out, or you saw it at a yard sale or garage sale, or maybe it's a family heirloom. But have you ever thought about the history of your typewriters and what was written on those typewriters and how were they used? That's an interesting story to think about if you knew the history of your typewriters. Today, I have a story about a typewriter. Stay tuned. It's a pretty nice day here in Albuquerque, clear, hardly any breeze at all, and I'm just wearing a light shirt instead of a jacket. I'm walking down in Arroyo del Oso, otherwise known as Bear Canyon. There's a golf course, a city golf course in the distance. Up at the top of the arroyo, closer up, is a model airplane flying park and a dog walking park, and it's a city recreational area. And it's a fun place just a couple miles from where I live, in the heart of the city, actually. So, there's a gentleman named Sterling Carter who lives in Greensboro, North Carolina, here in the United States. And he got a hold of me a while back and wanted to tell me about the story of his typewriter. He has a 1928 Remington Model 2 portable, and he bought it at a antique store in North Carolina called Granddaddy's Antiques in Burlington. And he found that on the bottom of the case, Reverend W.H. Bowers sailed on tourist class on the Aquitania of Cunard White Star Line. And on the top of the case, there's a sticker for a B tourist class and another for Cunard White Star saying a W.H. Bowers sailed on them. Now, isn't that interesting? You've probably, if you have any kind of a sizable collection, you might have something identifying the name of one of the previous owners of your typewriter. And this piqued Sterling's interest, and he started searching for who this Mr. Bowers was. Well, as it turns out, our Mr. Sterling Carter is no mere mortal. He is a genealogist. So what perfect combination to mix a genealogist with an old Remington typewriter with some cryptic references to its perhaps former owner. And so, as it turns out, it only took Mr. Carter a matter of several days to hunt down W.H. Bowers. So one of the interesting things about this typewriter, it is a bilingual English-Spanish keyboard. And that was one of the keys to the puzzle right here. And so Mr. Bowers was a missionary of the Reformed and Congregational churches in Spain from 1913 to 1933. Well, as it turns out, Wayne Hazer Bowers was born in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania in 1878. His childhood was one of privilege. He attended several private schools and graduated in 1893. He graduated Marshall College with honors. He was a teacher at Chambersburg High School, and he entered the senior class of Harvard University and graduated in 1901. And then again, he taught at the high school as vice principal. And then he spent time traveling and studied at the University of Göttingen in Germany. He was a teacher of German and history at Mackenzie School in New York. And then he resigned from the job, studied law, was admitted to the bar in 1904. And then he abandoned the practicing law and entered the seminary of the Reformed Church, which is now called the Church of Christ. And he held pastorates in Missouri, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. And then it says in his biography, he was a missionary from Spain from 1913 to 1933. And prior to going to Spain, he taught languages at Hood College in Maryland, and he taught at the Massanutten Military Academy in Virginia. Then he left there to head the Department of Languages at the University of Virginia, from where he retired. And quite a resume, and I really appreciate Sterling's persistence in hunting down this story, and I really think it's really fun that he was able to take this old typewriter with the English, Spanish keyboard and a name on the case and some clues as to perhaps some potential travels that Mr. Bowers had made on an ocean liner, and hunt down his biography and find a little bit about him. And that is so cool, thinking about, here's this typewriter that was used by a missionary in Spain. Sterling, in his letter, says, "Whew, what a resume. It was quite impressive to me, and I felt the need to share. He was a little bit of everything, and I thought maybe he bought this typewriter in Spain, or maybe he had it special order during his time there from the States." I really appreciate Sterling sharing your story of your typewriter with us. I have a early 1960s Hermes 3000. It has the name of a doctor inside the lid of the typewriter, and I really haven't researched that. I need to do what Sterling did and go do some genealogy researching on the internet and find out, what was the story of this guy? How did he have this typewriter? Who was he? What might he have used it for? That's really interesting. I guess another way to think about it is typewriters not only have a history, but they are history. They represent the history of mechanized writing in the industrial age and into most of the 20th century. So they are fundamentally a piece of history. They're part of it. And there are stories connected to each typewriter, if we could only decipher the story and figure it out. So I have a little bit of research to do myself, and how about you? You guys got any typewriters with clues as to who might have owned them? Well, I encourage you, start a little digging, do a little digging, behind the scenes detective work, and figure it out if you can, and share it with us. Drop a comment down below if you have an old typewriter and you know the history of it. It would be great to hear. We're kind of like the caretakers of our typewriters. If you think about Sterling's typewriter, it's 93 years old, 92 years old, almost a century, and now he's the caretaker of that typewriter. He knows a little bit about the former owner, and so there is this kind of responsibility of carrying on the ownership and the care and the use of the typewriter for things that I think are worthwhile. And so think about that, guys, and until next time, stay well and have yourselves a great day, and stay creative. Bye-bye for now.